Hello, this is Lorena, and I'm back with another Deluxe video. I don't know if this one will be any more sane than the last one, but the last video was a bit of a rant because, well, I just don't like that people delegitimize my experiences as though they are just out of touch with reality. Alright, well, first off, this franchise, the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, you know, the game that this game is founded on, saved my life, or at least that's what I think. I'm not entirely sure how much of it actually, I'm not sure how much of the series, I don't know how much it actually contributed to that, but it was one of the reasons that I remember for wanting to stay alive. In the middle of one of the worst times in my life, where I was miserable, completely miserable, and this franchise made me decide I want to stay alive to see where it goes. And then it turned into a lot of things. A lot of shit happened. I became even more attached to this game and the anime as a whole, but in any case, I just think it's weird that people will just hate on me for what I experienced. Now, no one has actually done that to me yet, but I do imagine that once I start developing the guts to speak out about this stuff, that's going to change. Alright, I actually have some wait a minute, hold on. This isn't what I expected. Okay, is this a Gravekeeper deck? I don't know, last time I was wrong, it says I was playing a Gravekeeper deck. And then I saw Odeon and I was wondering, is he playing a Gravekeeper deck? And he was not. He was playing whatever he was playing last time I told him. I can't even remember what I can't even remember. Okay, dude, I can activate this effect on my opponent's turn. My opponent might have a way to deal with this. I'm not sure yet. She just set those cards this turn. She need a spell face down to deal with this. Maybe Missile Space Typhoon, but you know. Okay, what does that do exactly? What? Maybe I should read before activating this? Okay, whatever. I'm doing it anyway. Alright, well, I won. I won. You know, I was going to say that I don't really think I'm able to read in the state that I'm in now, but I just watched the new episode of Go Rush, so that's bullshit. Yeah, it was subbed, so if I read that and I understood what was happening, then clearly I can read. And if I know that, well, yeah, basically I can sort of read. But I'm in a very weird state of mind. And I don't even know why I'm in this state right now, to be completely honest. Some weird shit happens to me regularly. Well, semi-regularly, depending on if I'm actually living or if I'm bored. And if I'm bored, that's actually... I usually get pissed off shortly after I'm bored. And I feel bored. And for some reason, because anger has become an energy resource for me, it's not as bad as it used to be. But still... People delegitimize what I experience as being out of touch with reality. Well, if you ask me, you would easily be more out of touch with reality if you keep having nightmares about random bullshit that just messes with everything you know as... You know what? I'm not making sense. But trust me, my nightmare was bad enough to wake me up. And... it made me think about things. It made me think about how I just experienced so many things that most people just don't think are legitimate. And my nightmare was basically like out of a horror novel or something. Horror mythology, to be more specific, I guess. And that was the weirdest thing about it, because it just reminded me of a horror story and a horror myth. And while it did that, the takeaway I got from it was not just the horror bits, but how isolated you are when you are being hunted down by these horror-like beings. I wouldn't say that the person in my dream is a horror-like being, but unfortunately, he was a victim of my brain, making him into nightmare fuel. I would apologize, but, well, this person does not know me, and there'd be no point. Also, I really don't know if I want to apologize, considering, well, it's just a nightmare. It's fake. There's not much wrong with it besides that. And now, I do have a problem with the nightmare because of how isolated I felt in it. But the emotional impact comes from the fact that I could experience pretty much anything. And people would just assume that whatever I experienced wasn't actually real. In the context of this nightmare, yes, it was indeed fake. I know. But if I did actually experience something like that, no one would believe me. And that is where the emotional problems come in. The fact that I do need things that modern society just does not give a rat's ass about. There is a place for things like what I experience. Yes, what I experience is a bit strange, but I don't think it's out of the question to say that religion is a thing because there's a legitimate reason for the reason it exists. Religion can cause a lot of harm, and I generally think most of them are cults, but I feel like the main function that religion serves has an overall place in modern society. And as the United States has become more focused around capitalism, I think the country has largely forgotten about the place that this kind of shit has. We believe things like God to exist, or if you're an atheist, you get bashed by Christians for not believing in their God. But in any case, the main thing I'm coming around to saying is, I don't believe that the Christian God is actually portrayed accurately if I am to believe some of the shit Christians are saying. You know what? Why did I say that? That's not what I meant to say at all. I guess it's probably closer to the truth, though, to be fair. And now, I heard in therapy that back in the past, stuff like religion was more reserved for mediums and shamans and people like that. And I brought up the Bible as an example because there are indeed people that speak to God in the Bible, and they seem to be the ones that mainly talk to him. And I was thinking about how maybe they just said God said this and that, but God did not. But of course, I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm really glad I wasn't. But to be completely honest, all I'm really saying is I don't think it's fair to judge something just because you don't understand it. And you shouldn't just point your fingers that someone is making light of something when you don't know that person's story. You don't know what hell they've endured, what bullshit they've gone through. you don't know what started their path in life. Maybe they're really passionate about their faith. That's okay, that's fine. I just don't agree with the concept of eternal damnation. I don't like the concept of hell, but I can't realistically argue against the existence of it because you can suffer. It can feel like eternity. There are a lot of reasons for me to say that some form of hell can exist without it being eternal and for all eternity. But in any case, spirituality and things beyond the scene have a place and a role. And modern society has begun to lose that. Mainly in the West, I would assume. I can't speak for the East since I don't live there. But I can speak for the fact that at least where I am, it doesn't seem like there's anyone out there that can actually help me through the experiences I'm going through. And that's the reason I have said absolutely nothing about them. Well, sort of. I have said some things about them, but I mainly view those experiences as my shoulder. I mean, what do I call it? I shoulder this. I don't know if I'd call this a burden, but it's my share of the responsibility, basically. This is my life, and I'm responsible for how I live it. And in some ways, I do feel like some of that is gradually being stripped away from me, but all in all, I think that most of what I experience is still within my control, and I think as an adult, I have the right to deal with what I want to deal with and at least be responsible about it. And for the most part, I have been. I don't think you guys can tell that I'm actually in some kind of pain. Now you may be wondering why I haven't seen a doctor about this. Well, thing is, I know that what I'm experiencing is probably not what a doctor knows about, because I get that feeling, you know? I've been to the doctor for a few things just to rule some shit out. But in general, I really do think that my experiences are just not in the realm of what most professionals here in the US are trained to do. Also, there aren't a lot of options for medical care here in my area. If they exist, it's not as much as in the middle of nowhere as it was as a child. There are more cars on the road, and I can tell, even though I keep saying my memory sucks. But the whole point of this entire rant is just to say that my experiences are valid, and if some of my subjective experiences make my negative subjective experiences less terrifying, I don't think anyone has the right to say that I can't believe whatever the hell I want. I'm not hurting anyone. And when I do finally start coming out and discussing some of these things more actively, there will be some ground to cover in terms of responsibility and stuff like that. I do think that when it comes to soul bonding, there is a way to do it incorrectly. I did not even know I could level down. Well, that's because I wasn't paying attention to which level I was at. I assumed I was at level 20. Yeah, that's how out of it I am, apparently. Anyway, as I was saying, I seem to be dealing with my experiences right now just fine. I mean, I'm not screaming or anything. Although, those card plays, well, they're definitely going to give me a run for my money. I'll be fair. I'll be fair there. But at least it'll be about the card plays and not what I'm experiencing outside of this game. Now, I'm not actually sure how I would explain what I'm dealing with for the average viewer of a video like this, because, well, it's just weird. It's not really something this franchise has gone into yet. The closest thing I can think of is dual spirits, but I don't even see spirits. I just communicate with them, and they talk to me telepathically somehow. And it's a really neat and cool experience, but it absolutely can backfire if you're inexperienced. Although I was lucky, it never backfired on me. And now it easily could have, considering I too was once inexperienced. But I think there is something that may have saved me in that department. Not knowing what I wanted was actually possible. Yeah, there are things about my experiences that I never thought they were actually in the realm of possibility. I used to think they were just impossible because, I mean, they generally are considered to be impossible. That's why my experiences are delegitimized. People think my experiences aren't legit because it's not normal to think that you can experience those things. But that's beside the point here. While it's not normal necessarily, it's certainly something that I'm running into more of an issue with. The more I deal with my situation, the more I think, the more restricted I feel. There's just a lot that I have to unpack about what I've believed, what people believe, all of this bullshit that's going on right now on the planet. There's just a lot of shit that is going on that I have to process as someone that is physically here on planet Earth. And there are definitely norms that must be taken into account whenever I am actually talking about anything. And now, when you're plural and you're soul bonding, there are definitely, again, ways that you can completely mess up and ways that can be inappropriate. As in, you don't just soul bond with anyone and everyone and expect that to be a completely fair and good idea. You could run into some problems depending on who you soul bond with. But for some reason, I've kind of bypassed that. I don't really have an explanation for this, but I guess I'm just an outlier and should not be counted. But soul bonding itself is an outlier. Most people watching these videos are probably like, why are you suddenly talking about this? What even is soul bonding? Well, before I actually explain that, in another video, I'd actually like to be in more of a mindset where I can discuss this stuff in a less emotionally attached way. I still want to go into this stuff in a way that makes sense, but I don't know. I think there are ways that I can do this better. Now, the main problem that I have with soul bonding is because of how it's approached as making light of trauma and things that people go through, which I guess is true in some cases. There is a lot of negativity shown on soul bonders that are absolutely on the worst side of the entire community, or whatever's left of it. And I don't like that, because what this does to the community is it keeps it from coming back together. And I don't actually think that the community is likely to come back together unless there is some way to make soul bonding less stigmatized in modern society. And I don't necessarily know if I'm the right person to do that, but I do know that I'm absolutely someone that is willing to try. But not right now, and here's the reason why right now isn't good enough. Again, I don't feel like I'm in the proper mind space to discuss this topic with the respect it should be given. Soul bonding is a very, very unusual experience. A lot of people just don't understand it and what it is. And this is completely understandable. It's stigmatized, so not a lot of people are going to know about it. But it's even more difficult to explain what it is when you're not in the clearest state of mind. You may be thinking that I'm communicating just fine right now, but I mean, that's without having to use a script. And now, I have learned since I've stopped mentioning the script that some YouTubers actually legitimately use one. Hearing that some legitimate YouTubers actually do use a script makes me feel much better about my decision to use one in the past. But these YouTubers that use the script just do it much better than I do. And I believe there are ways that I can improve my communication skills before I try discussing soul bonding and plurality again on this channel. The old videos are still there if anyone wants to watch them. But thing is, I don't think those are the best ways of actually discussing that information. I believe that I should be trying to discuss it in a less emotionally charged fashion, since I think that would make it easier to buy into what I'm saying without thinking that I'm just some offended snowflake. It's not about being unoffended. I mean, I'm somewhat offended, but it's not about being a special snowflake. It's about needing a place to belong and me not having one. Because I don't have a place to belong. Because I don't feel safe on planet Earth. As a human, no less. I mean, I've got about as much privilege as you can think about. Well, okay. And my family isn't rich. I guess that's one way I don't have the privilege, but I'm not exactly in the kind of situation I would ordinarily be in. I'm not trapped in poverty just yet. But I will be in the future if things do not change in the country. I'm kind of scared because of that. I feel like I'm spoiled. And I'm actually well aware that I probably am. Like, it's not just my imagination. I think I actually am legitimately spoiled to some extent. But beyond just me being a bit spoiled, I just don't feel like I could go from my current life to a life with much less that I can have. I can have what I do now because I've got good relations with my immediate family. My parents have a healthy relationship with me. I'm on good terms with them. And if it was not for my mother's generosity, I would not be able to live the life I do at this point. So, what I have to deal with is, it's very important for me to learn how to adapt and function on Earth and interact with people without feeling like I'm going to be burned at the stake for being different. but I have not yet found how I'm going to accomplish that. Anyway, for now, that's going to wrap things up for this video. I'm surprised the rant is still going, but I don't think I sound as angry, which is surprising to me. Anyway, I'll see you guys in my next video.